Well, a good morning to everybody, and it's a beautiful day here in Barber's Paddock, and today I'm going to be in the workshop. I'm going to be working on another workshop build series project, and normally when I'm building something it's to add functionality into the workshop or to expand functionality, but today actually I'm going to address that. So that's my dust collector. It is a Sherwood 2 horsepower dust collector. Perfectly fine dust collector. Is served well so far and is more than capable of servicing the machines I have in the shop here. However, one of the things that I do need to address if I'm going to move forward with working on this side of the workshop in the future is I need to fix the ducting. So when I bought the dust collector and I bought this sort of dust kit or extraction kit, I kind of just slapped it together thinking, okay, it came with all of these fittings, I'll just put them in whatever orientation works. And the reality is that that was probably not a great idea. As a result, what we have is probably some rather significant inefficiencies. So we've got quite a few T-junctions, or specifically from the main line, we've got a T-junction that goes to the dust collector, which is obviously not ideal. That's a bit of a problem. We have T-junctions that drop down here, T-junction here. So we kind of want to try and reduce or remove some of these specific fittings that are here and just clean it all up. Remove some of the unnecessary pipes. So I've got a lot of piping, or hosing I should say. Some of it you just can't get rid of, that's fine, but we can certainly reduce it. The other thing that I want to address is the way these pipes are configured. So as it stands, you know, certain machines have to be in that spot because that's where the dust collection goes. So I've been working on a kind of quick clamp system or a quick magnet attach system. So I'll talk about that a little later on. But I want to have a bit more flexibility on where I put machines. So if I want to have a machine out here, I want to be able to just quickly clamp to it and then move the machine out of the way when I don't need it. The other thing I want to address is the blast gate. So this is a bog standard blast gate that came with the kit. It's obviously plastic. They work, I guess, but over time, and I'm certain that a lot of people are going to say the same thing, these things just are kind of crap. So they get blocked, they get stuck. The way that they're designed, you know, dirt and dust gets wedged in here. So as a result, these just don't close properly. And if they don't close properly, a lot of them, you know, won't close exactly while you're losing suction. So I am going to replace all the blast gates with ones that hopefully I can make and see if that improves the situation. So we'll be doing that for, again, most of the blast gates that are around. One last goal that I have is to introduce some modularity.
That doesn't make sense.
To the ducting system. So I'd love to be able to create a modular system in which I can swap in and out components, change the orientation or layout of the ducting quite quickly, quite easily. I am a huge fan of modularity, or modular units. This workbench is a perfect example of that philosophy. If you're interested in watching it, there is a video in regards to my approach to a modular bench. So one of the goals will be to try and apply that same methodology to the ducting here. Can we create a sort of modular system of components that will allow me to sort of swap in, swap out, or modify functionality or orientation or any sort of changes that I'd like to make quickly and easily. So I think where I'm going to start is with the blast gates. So this is a blast gate that I have throughout my entire shop, and I'm assuming a lot of people have the same blast gate in their workshops as well. And to highlight the problem with these, I've made this sort of mock-up blast gates that'll more clearly identify or show what the problem is with these. So when the blast gate is open, like it is now, what happens is that you have this huge gap in between the flanges, I guess, or the sides of the blast gate that allow dust and debris and wood chips and whatnot to get in there, meaning that when you go to close the gate, it may not close. So as those get wedged into the corners and into the sides here, you'll find that your blast gate just won't either close or it won't close completely. And then once you've got gaps where you have air leaking, well then, you know, your blast gate doesn't really do what it's supposed to do. So generally the solution to this is to make the blast gate much longer, and instead of having just a door basically that's sliding in front of the hole, you have the entire gate have its own opening, and that means that it closes up all of the insides. And even if you have the gate, let's say, only open like this, and a bunch of sawdust gets in here or wood chips that you're working with, it means though that once you close the gate again, it pushes all of that back outside, so it's sort of self-cleaning. Now there are pros and cons to a gate like this, and the biggest con, I guess, is its size, because it means that no longer can we just have a door that slides in front of the opening. It has to go to the other side here. So it means that if you've got it up against the wall, you're not going to be able to close it because there's nowhere for the gate to go. So you need to have them sort of sideways. Now, in my workshop, that's not a big deal. In your workshop, well, maybe that might be. So you may still find yourself having to use something like this. I'm going to switch out to something like this. And that should hopefully stop my blast gates effectively not closing properly, or not being able to close properly. So after a bit of experimentation, this is my basic blast gate design. It's just some MDF cutout on the laser with a main gate sandwich between them. I've added some additional rings to each side that will help support being attached to standard 100mm pipe. It's a low-tech solution, but should work just fine for my needs. If you're interested in the cut files for any of the fittings that you've seen here today, then let me know in the comments below. So it's taken a lot of trial and error to get to this point. We can see that there's been a lot of attempts here, a lot of practice test pieces. Here's a whole bunch of blast gates, a whole bunch of flanges and whatnot. So we've certainly been giving the laser a good workout on this. So let me walk through how I think this is all going to kind of work together and how this is going to be the basis of my modular system. So the basis of my system is around these sort of flanges that connect everything together. So to give you an idea how this system's going to work, let me show you a sort of mock-up scenario. So this is the base flange that I'm calling a pipe flange, and I've lasered a name onto each one so that I know which kind of flange it is, but this is the basic premise. It's basically an adapter that will allow me to slot in a pipe or 100mm PVC pipe, and that allows me to create adapters like this. So here's one where I've slotted the pipe in. So even just with a friction fit here, doesn't come off. And once we glue this in and seal it, we get a nice airtight seal. So there's no concerns that we're gonna get any air loss. So for connecting a pipe or a hose to a machine, I've come up with this magnetic coupler. Now, obviously this is not a new concept by any means or stretch of the imagination, but this is a system that I came up with to try and minimize and use the least amount of materials possible while still getting a really nice strong magnetic connection. Again, it's made up of layers of MDF, so 6mm, 3mm and 3mm, so 12mm thickness total, and these are N50 neodymium magnets or earth magnets. There are 6 in this orientation, and these magnets aren't really that expensive. I think I paid for 100 of these at around $35–40. But the idea is obviously very simple. So we would clamp our hose onto the end here. So we've got a little bit of pipe here to give ourselves a clamping surface for our hose. This is the adapter for my benchtop jointer. This is the adapter for my thicknesser. And it's a simple case that this will attach to the thicknesser, and then when we want to connect our hose, it'll go like that. And because of the orientation of the magnets, it doesn't really matter which way we go. Can be in any link, and it'll be universal amongst adapters, so it doesn't matter which one we use, we're going to use the same adapter. So let's go through a quick demo situation. So imagine this is our pipe, and it can be obviously any length we want, but this is our pipe that we've got our flanges on. So for example, from here we can have different things we can interface with. So we may want to attach a hose, in which case we can use a hose adapter. We can bolt that to that and then attach our hose physically to it. Maybe instead of a hose, we want to put a blast gate. So for example, here is a blast gate that I've made. We can slot that into the fitting. We can then have a top fitting, and then we could add another pipe to the top of this. So pretend this is our pipe, and of course what we would now have is a blast gate right in between our pipe. Now you might not want another pipe, you might want a magnetic coupler. So again, we can change this particular adapter and instead use a magnetic coupler. We can install that into it, and we can attach our hose as a magnetic coupler instead. So this gives you an idea of the kind of thing that I'm working on to give myself a bit more flexibility to be able to interchange the solution to however way I want it. Okay, so now that we know how the system is going to work, it's time to start making it all happen, and the first thing I need to do is to begin making some room in the shop and take down some of the current shop piping. I'm going to start with the ducting on the far side of the shop and work my way around. Then the next thing will be to prepare some form ply strips over at the table saw. These will be used as a base to mount our ducting system to. Right, so I've just cut these strips on the table saw, but where they're going is up here. So I want to create a mounting surface that stretches across the entire beam here. As you can see, if I zoom in, there's not a lot of space up there to be able to actually mount things. So if I put a piece of form ply right across that gap, that should give me something, will give me a lot of points in which I can then mount whatever drop down brackets that I have. Okay, out of breath now. So I've just taken down the piping that's on this side. I removed the elbow here, so we're all good to go. But I thought while I'm standing in the corner, here's a view of the workshop that you've not seen before. In fact, I haven't even seen this before, so let's do a quick pan around so you can see. And of course the noise that you hear is my very big air filtration unit. So if you want to see a video of me and my dad trying to get that thing up there, and this is before I even owned a ladder. So the way I put it up there, don't follow that. So we've got our board ready to go. Here it is. I've pre-drilled all of the holes ready to mount to the wall, and I'm going to mount them to the wall using these self-drilling screws, courtesy of today's sponsor, DMS Fasteners. Hey Anthony, can you pass me another screw? Sorry buddy, we're all out. Wait, what? What are you talking about? We just bought a whole bunch of screws the other day. Are you telling me we're out already? Yeah, sorry, that was the last screw. But Anthony, we're on a deadline here. Where am I going to find screws on such short notice? Well, have you tried DMS Fasteners? They're the one-stop source for all things fasteners. I haven't, but this is really urgent. We need them ASAP. No stress, Anthony. They're located in Melbourne. They ship nationally. It's free shipping. Plus, if you order before 2 p.m, they'll dispatch same day. Oh really? Absolutely, they have a massive range of fasteners including screws, nuts, bolts, and so much more. That sounds pretty amazing. Where can I find these guys? It's easy. Hop online at dmsfasteners.com.au or give them a call and tell them that I sent you. Thanks Anthony, once again you've saved my bacon. Love you buddy. Love you too buddy. So a huge thank you to DMS Fasteners for supporting today's video and supplying all the nuts, bolts and screws for this project. Use the promo code in the description for additional discount at checkout. Well, that's definitely not going anywhere. Over at the miter saw, I cut strips of form ply to length. These I'll use to mount the pipes and fittings to. Then it was a case of pre-drilling some holes for the mounting screws. Then finally over at the router table we put a small round over on each piece.
I have a whole bunch of these pipe brackets that I've never used from the original kit, and I'll use them here as a way to hold the pipes on the bracket. Before I mount the pipes, I'll pre-assemble some of the fittings. It will be easier to do this now than when it's up on the wall. And I did the same for the brackets. Again, easier now than on the wall. Mounting the brackets now that we have a solid back panel to attach to makes this part really easy.
Okay, I'm taking a momentary break from this side because I've kind of reached the middle here and I want to make sure that I get the right amount of pipe length here so that this all joins back up properly. So I am going to move over to that side in a second. So far, kind of really happy with the way it's looking. So everything is joining really nicely. It's a really nice tight fit and not too many dramas so far. So with that in mind, I'm going to move over there. Now, since this side is pretty much the same, I'm going to put some form ply up the top here. I am not going to bore you with watching me do that. So with the power and magic of editing, and there we go. We've been very busy between takes in the last couple of weeks, and effectively we have now finished and finalized our dust collection system. So let me take you on a quick tour of everything that I've been doing. So the first thing we'll notice is that I have replaced all the blast gates with ones that I have made. So based on the design that I showed you earlier, and they slide out very nicely. And of course, they're going to at least self-clean. So they are going to, they shouldn't get blocked basically. So one of the major improvements is some of the ducting that goes to the table saw. So we've cleaned up a lot of ducting. We've moved quite a bit of ducting, and we've cleaned up some of the piping on this side. So before, you could see it all just hanging out here, and it was actually taking up a lot of space, and as a result I was losing a little bit of floor space when it came to the table saw, but by fixing up the ducting here, we've largely fixed that up. So one of the major pain points that I've addressed with the table saw is where the blast gate location is. So it used to be down here, and every time I wanted to use the table saw, I would have to come around to the back, open the blast gate, and then obviously turn the dust collector on. But what I've done is I've routed through this Y junction, I've routed a blast gate here. So there's a blast gate here, and on the other side of the table saw, I'll show you what I've done. So on the underside of the table saw, I've just installed this dowel that's connected to the blast gate, and it's just a simple case of pushing it forward when I want to close it and pulling it open when I need to open it. And that means I can open and close the blast gate to the table saw from the front of the table saw rather than having to constantly walk around and open it from the back. Now probably the best part of the collection system is this part. So we now have a interchangeable system here where we can connect the different machines. So we can connect either the jointer or the planer, and we have a flexible attached magnet hose that sits in its own little bracket. So I made a bracket for this and then just bolted it in between the flanges. So again, very modular. So that's my first, I guess, mod already to this particular system. And the point of this is that instead of these, this used to be located out in the shop here and it'd be physically connected to the ducting system here, and that one used to be physically connected as well. So they kind of got in the way a lot, and they took up a lot of space into the shop. But the point of this now is that we can roll out a machine when we need it. We only need to take that off the holder And using one hand, we can simply connect it. So now that's all connected, and I can move this out. And that makes it nice and convenient. And then once I'm done using the planer or joint or whatever it is, I can disconnect it, reattach the hose up here, and wheel the machine back out of the way. So on this side of the workshop, I have fixed up the ducting that comes down to my bandsaw and the one that goes down to my ground dust collection unit here. Now originally with this, I was planning on getting rid of this particular type of ducting, but ever since I fixed or have updated all of this, the performance of this has significantly increased to a point where it's actually useful now. So I'm glad I didn't ditch it completely, but I'm so glad that I've gone through this process of upgrading the dust collection system. So once again, I've implemented my own blast gates here. Very simple, just slide backwards and forwards and they will be self-cleaning.
So in the end, was this all worth it? And did I achieve the goals that I set out in the beginning? And the best way to answer this is in a visual demonstration.
So what I have in front of me is what I've removed from the system that is essentially redundant now. All of these couplings, fixtures, fittings, pipes, hoses, clamps, etc. are now redundant. Now we haven't removed any functionality from the system. If anything, we've introduced functionality. So even though my system was relatively uncomplicated, it wasn't a overtly complex layout, as you can see, it's very easy for it to become very ineffective, even with a small layout. And while all of these probably only represent maybe a fraction of a percent, as you can see, was just with the sheer number and volume of things that we had in the system, it would all add up. I estimate that we've gained maybe between 20 to 30% in performance without sacrificing any functionality whatsoever. We've simplified the layout and we've made it much more efficient. So the question of did we achieve our goals and was it worthwhile in the end? Well, absolutely 100% it was worthwhile doing. And it's worth, even for the simplest of dust collection systems, to do your own analysis to see if there are some efficiencies that you can improve on by simply maybe doing some small tweaks or small improvements to your own systems. If you've made it this far into the video, then a big thank you and thanks for sticking around. Hopefully this video can provide some insights into how you can improve your dust collection within your workshop, or perhaps more importantly, avoid some of the mistakes that I made when I was setting up mine. If you're interested in the laser files that I used in this project, then leave a comment below and I'll see what I can do about trying to make them available to people. Now, during this journey, I made a lot of these discs. And originally the intent was, well, this was just going to be scrap and it was probably going to end up in the bin. So no self-respecting woodworker likes to throw away perfectly good material. And that's where I came up with an idea, and I need your help to make it happen. For the very first time, I've decided to try opening up channel memberships to people. There's only going to be a single tier, and I've set the amount to be the lowest possible that YouTube allows me to do. For each membership or super thanks donation received, I will laser your username onto one of these discs and display them in perpetuity in my workshop. Not only will you have my eternal thanks and gratitude, but there will be a permanent reminder of your support within my workshop. And of course, your name will appear in the credits for all my future videos. I'm going to apply this perk retrospectively to those who have been generous enough to donate in the past. So here are the first recipients of this unique perk. So I thank you to Marlo4364 and of course, James from Fix It Fingers. Thank you for your past generosity, and I will proudly display these in my workshop. Lastly, a big thank you to DMS Fasteners for once again sponsoring one of my videos. Their support has been amazing, and I encourage you to check out their website as well as take advantage of the promo code within the description. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one.